Rugby and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And some interesting developments over the last weekend as the sort of speculation and the rumours about the next Springbok coach do continue to spread amongst the country and the media. And an interesting development, and maybe something which, if it does happen, is almost quite obvious, is the fact that RASSIE ERASMUS is potentially going to be taking over for JACQUES NIENABER and taking a step back from a sort of director of rugby role back into sort of the coaching realm. Now, before we sort of break this down and exactly why this could be a good move, a bad move, and what this sort of move could mean, please do smash the like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so let's go to the facts first, and I think that'll sort of paint the picture to how we've gotten to the situation and to the story that we're now talking about today. First of all, is obviously JACQUES NIENABER is leaving. That has been confirmed. He'll be joining Leinster post the World Cup at the end of the year, and he will no longer be involved in SA Rugby. So that's what we do know. What we also know is that the three current Springbok assistant coaches, Wandile Stick, John David, and Darren Human, as well as Andy Edwards, who's the head of athletic performance, have all signed contract extensions for several years. And so they have all signed extensions up until 2027, until the next World Cup. So that is what we do know. That has been confirmed, that has been announced, and those four will be staying with the Springboks until the next World Cup, until 2027, so the next of the cycle. Now, what we also know is that RASSIE ERASMUS is currently contracted until 2025, and that was reaffirmed by SA Rugby CEO Rian Olberholzer that he remains committed to his contract and he will not be leaving before 2025. So for the last few weeks, we've sort of been speculating, well, who takes over as the Springbok head coach? A lot of people are still talking about the fact that Wandile Stick, for example, is being grouped to take over as head coach. Is this going to be his opportunity to take over? Other people are saying they'd like somebody new to come in. But then the fact that the current assistant coaches have all been appointed means that maybe there isn't space for somebody new because they can't bring in their own staff, for example, which has always been an issue in many sort of coaching structures in the past. So now the story is coming out that RASSIE ERASMUS will basically take over himself for the next 2 years. And he will sort of reprise his role that he had in 2018-2019, where he was both the director of rugby of SA Rugby, but also basically the head coach. Apparently the SA Rugby are taking their time. They don't want to rush the decision. They want to make sure they get the decision right, and apparently they are very happy to wait until the right candidate comes up. So the interesting thing is, if RASSIE were to take over for the next 2 years, is that a stopgap in inverted commas, or is he genuinely the best person for the job? Given the fact that JACQUES NIENABER is leaving, is it the right time for RASSIE ERASMUS to step back into the sort of the setup, take a much more hands-on role, and sort of guide the Boks for the next 2 years whilst SA Rugby finds a suitable replacement? Or is that just is that a backwards move? Some people say it's a backwards move in terms of RASSIE ERASMUS spending the next 2 years where we have to rebuild our squad, we have to bring in new youngsters, stuff like that, only for a new head coach to try and then sort of take the foundations being built by somebody else and move it forward. Now, some people say maybe it's a case of he takes over for the next 2 years whilst grooming, as Wandile Stick, for example, even a Dion Davids, to then sort of take over for the next 2 years to 2027, and then after that make a decision. So there's a lot of pros and cons. I can understand the thinking in terms of a continuity perspective, and in terms of continuing to exact a plan, which is hopefully quite a long-term plan. It does make sense to keep sort of things happening. But fresh blood's also a good thing, and you want to see fresh blood. You want to see new people coming into the setup, and we will have to see new people because for example, we've got 2 coaches leaving. We'll have to replace those 2 coaches. We probably need somebody to come in as an attack coach. Probably need somebody to come in as a defense coach. 2 pretty important roles as well. So even if RASSIE ERASMUS were to sort of move back into the role, we're going to have to appoint at least a defense coach, and I think another coach as well to replace Felix Jones, who's also leaving. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years. And again, I think there are pros and cons. I think maybe, as I said, from a continuity perspective, I can understand the wanting to sort of move RASSIE back into that role. You don't have to worry too much about things changing. You kind of already got a pretty settled setup, and it kind of continues to take over. The issue comes if you have a disaster World Cup, and you're then now losing faith in the coaches you've got, and whether they are the right men for the job, and whether you've got the right people. Then you start to question, well, can we afford to have this for another 2 years, or should we be sort of pressing reset? A lot of people saying that they've handed the coaching staff contracts too early, which I think maybe I can go with. I don't see why we necessarily have to go and hand our contracts before the World Cup. I think we do need to start seeing, there needs to be a performance review at the end of the day, and the World Cup we've been very happy to lose other competitions in our pursuit of trying to get to the World Cup. So if we then have a disaster World Cup, well, then you'll sort of people start raising questions about, is this the right coach staff? Should we be not looking somebody else? So there's pros and cons. I want to know what you think. The other cons below. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.